All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're skipping the fluff and jumping right into Chapter 7 of the IPv6 Troubleshooting for System Administrators and Technical Support tutorial. This one comes to us from the folks at Virtualization Options LLC. They're a Colorado-based technology research and advisory group. Now, if you're already pretty comfortable troubleshooting IPv4 and you're helping your org migrate over to IPv6, this chapter on DNS and name resolution is literally made for you. We are strictly focusing on the DNS interface between human-readable host names and IPv6 addresses. We're not rehashing anything from the first 6 chapters, so let's get right to it. Let's kick things off by just validating some of that IT pain you're probably feeling right now. If you work the help desk or manage infrastructure, you've definitely seen IPv6 DNS failures that just look entirely random. And honestly, they look random because there is absolutely no equivalent problem in the IPv4 world that you're used to. With IP4, your muscle memory tells you exactly where to look when a name doesn't resolve, right? But with IPv6, especially in dual stack setups, the whole game changes. That randomness you're seeing isn't a glitch. It's a fundamental structural difference in how DNS queries route when both IP protocols are running at the same time. You basically have to unlearn the assumption that if IP4 DNS works, IPv6 DNS will just magically follow suit.
And that brings us to the classic support ticket mystery that we're going to solve today. You know the one. You get a ticket saying an internal resource is down for one user, but the person sitting literally right next to them can access it perfectly fine. So why do different users get completely different results for the exact same internal host? Well, it entirely comes down to which specific DNS server is answering the query. In an IPv6 or dual stack setup, a client device could have a bunch of DNS servers available to it. You've got local router assignments, VPN pushes, static configs. If user A's machine decides to ask the internal corporate DNS server, boom, they get the right answer. But if user B's machine happens to ask an external ISP server because of some weird config quirk, they get nothing. Or worse, the wrong answer. The specific answering server completely dictates the outcome.
So we need to establish our baseline here. In IPv4, you're always hunting for the A record. But for IPv6 troubleshooting, you are constantly on the lookout for AAA records. Most people call them quad A records. These are the DNS records that map human-readable host names to those massive 128-bit IPv6 addresses, and they are absolutely essential for dual-stack name resolution. If a client tries to reach a dual-stack server, it usually prefers the IPv6 path. But if the quad A record is missing from the DNS response, or if an incorrect record gets served, the connection is going to fail. Or it might silently fall back to IPv4, which is super sneaky because it completely masks the fact that your IPv6 deployment is actually broken. Missing or incorrectly served quad A records are usually the real culprits behind these subtle failures.
Okay, so how do we fix it? You need the exact diagnostic commands to isolate the variables. You can't just run a standard ping and call it a day anymore. You need to see exactly what each server in your environment is throwing back at you. This is where dig comes in. By using the dig command and appending that @ symbol right before the DNS server address, you force the query to go to that exact server. So you'd run dig +short quad a internal.host directly against your internal DNS. Then do it against your external DNS. Then your VPN DNS. It's a really methodical way to strip away the operating system's automatic DNS selection and see exactly where the chain is snapping. If your internal DNS returns the quad A record, but your VPN DNS gives you nothing, bam, you've instantly found your problem.
And I want to point out that this super tactical, no-nonsense troubleshooting approach comes straight from Chapter 7 of the Technical Manual by Virtualization Options LLC. When you're migrating enterprise networks, you really don't want to be guessing. This Colorado-based research, education, and advisory group specifically designed this manual to help sysadmins bridge that gap from legacy networks over to modern dual-stack environments. Isolating the exact answering server isn't just a tip, it's basically a core tenet of professional network diagnostics. Let's take a look at how this plays out with VPNs, because honestly, a massive percentage of these DNS headaches originate right here in the split tunnel. In a properly functioning VPN split DNS setup, a remote user queries an internal corporate domain, the VPN intercepts that query, routes it to the internal DNS server, and hands back the correct internal quad A records. Perfect. But in a broken setup, those records are either missing entirely or the queries actually leak externally. The client machine ends up sending the request for your secure internal server out to the public internet's DNS. So not only does it fail to resolve the record, but you are now literally leaking internal infrastructure hostnames out onto the public web. Yikes. Knowing it's broken is only half the battle, right? To actually resolve these VPN DNS issues, the source documentation lays out 3 very specific checks. First off, you have to make sure your VPN is actively pushing the correct internal DNS server address to the client when they connect.
Second, you must explicitly configure split DNS rules in the VPN client so it knows exactly which internal domains belong in the tunnel. And third, and this is the one that sysadmins used to IPv4 miss all the time, verify that the VPN DNS server actually has the correct Quad A records for those internal resources. If your VPN DNS server is only loaded up with legacy A records, your IPv6 clients are going to fail to connect over the tunnel every single time. But wait, it gets a bit deeper. We have to talk about a much more severe complication the manual warns about: the split tunnel leak. This is a critical security and connectivity issue mostly found in older VPN clients. The documentation specifically calls out older Cisco AnyConnect versions, a lot of legacy IPsec clients, and OpenVPN configs that lack an explicit tune IPv6 and /0 push route. What happens here is the VPN client successfully tunnels the IPv4 traffic, but it completely ignores the IPv6 traffic. Because it's not captured by the VPN interface, the IPv6 traffic bypasses the VPN entirely and goes straight out the user's local internet connection. That exposes their real IPv6 IP address and completely bypasses your corporate firewalls and security policies. Or conversely, the client might just block IPv6 entirely without tunneling it, causing all your dual-stack sites to just drop outright. To fix this leak, the documentation gives us a really clear binary choice. You have two options. Option A is to fully tunnel IPv6. This is definitely the modern preferred way to go. You configure the VPN to route all IPv6 traffic through the tunnel. That means pushing a /0 route, which is just the IPv6 equivalent of a default route, and explicitly enabling IPv6 on the tunnel interface. But if your current infrastructure absolutely cannot support that yet, you're left with option B: disable IPv6 on the client entirely. Obviously, it's not ideal for an IPv6 migration, but turning it off at the client level ensures your traffic doesn't silently leak outside the secure tunnel. It basically forces all traffic back to the monitored IPv4 path until you can get your VPN infrastructure upgraded.
All right, so if you take away nothing else from this chapter, remember the golden rule. Whenever you're staring down a mysterious IPv6 connectivity issue, where maybe some users connect and others don't, or connections just seem to drop randomly, you have to strictly verify two things. Number one, verify the Quad A record response using those targeted dig commands we talked about, proving exactly which server is answering. And number two, follow the exact VPN tunnel path to ensure your IPv6 traffic isn't leaking out the side or getting blocked by legacy client software. If you isolate those two variables, I guarantee you will solve the vast majority of your IPv6 name resolution help desk tickets. I want to leave you with a final thought here, drawn straight from the implications of Chapter 7. With VPNs constantly evolving and hybrid work basically being the norm now, is your dual-stack infrastructure silently relying on IPv4 fallbacks that are masking critical IPv6 DNS failures? It is wildly common for an IPv6 DNS failure to just go completely unnoticed because the application quietly falls back to IPv4. Mastering IPv6 DNS, really understanding how those Quad A records propagate through your split tunnels, and doing all of it without leaning on those IPv4 crutches, that is the ultimate test of a modern sysadmin. Thanks so much for joining this explainer on Virtualization Options LLC's troubleshooting guide. Get out there, use these tools, verify those records, and take total control of your network's name resolution.